but I didn't get my 3, 2, 1 that I usually get. Where I think he's on strike. He's on strike, and let's see what I want to do today. So, I think what I'm going to do today is talk about consort, relationship, sexuality, and then take any questions, any conversation, anything of that nature. As I said, it's a. I found out, I think it's 3 weeks now that it's been high intensity consort practice, turning on the network. We seem to be getting excellent results from what I can gather, but you never know. You just never know. I mean, the nature of like true flight is that you could just come crashing down at any point. So it's good because you never ever get too cocksure. But you get anyway. That's my line for today. So I did think I was talking last night to my consort about sort of how I see intimacy, or like an experience of intimacy. I have many, but I had this one come to mind that I really like, and so I thought I'd share it. And this is from way back in the day when I was very young, doing illicit substances and that bring you to other places. And so one of the things that happens is you're in it, you're in the experience. And I am very fortunate that I was around one of the 5 primary families, and so they weren't recreational. They were very practice oriented. I don't know if that's the word, but it was for liberation, was the understanding. Liberation being play. And so really exquisite players, because one of the things about being in flight is that there's a kind of loneliness to it, because people fall out. You just be flying next to someone, they just fall out of the sky, and like you just kind of have, it's like catch as catch can kind of thing. And so there's a feeling I think we all have in some way of perhaps it's the case that I'll never be known, I'll never be touched, I'll never be reached, and if I am, it won't be on a consistent basis. And that sort of like that kind of yearning, it's pain yearning, good yearning. So it's like when you get a spot that hasn't been stroked and you first put your finger down on it, and it's like you're kind of like you can't decide quite which way to go, because both of them just feel so good bad, you're and good bad is my favorite sensation. I actually like good bad better than good, because good, you're just like, this is going to make a descent in the not too distant future. But good bad, you get to you kind of get to like stay in there. And then good, some people picked up what I was putting down. And so it's like you get to really extract the good. It takes longer because it's got to make it through the bad. And you're just and you really have to own that desire in that place. But when it just comes in good, you're like, woo, So not always. Sometimes you're just like, holy shit. And then sometimes you're like, woo, let's go. We can even go a little higher here, and you're just kind of like playing around with it. Anyway, so I was with that woman that I spoke of, who was the 3 sphinxes. Her name is Christina. And so I don't know. I'm a tripper, and I like to trip. And so when we would go on journeys, I would just go out there and see various things and bump into friends. And then so I'd be like out there, and you're really, if you're my mind anyway, I don't know how other people's minds are, but you're really immersed in the experience. You're just having this experience, whatever it is. I think on this particular night, it was very cool because the downstairs room in my house had transformed into a spaceship. And it had always been a spaceship. I just didn't have the eyes to see. And then one thing that happens on LSD is everything retroactively explains itself to you, which is my favorite. And one of the most important things to understand is that when you get into clarity, life will retroactively explain yourself. So live as if you're going to want what you're doing explained later. And because you understand everything. It's so, I mean, this is the most profound, and I do think that's not hyperbole. Part of psychedelics is that they explain everything. They explain it to you in this exquisite and immediate language. And you in that place where you're sitting there and you're just so naked. There's just such profound nakedness. And you would be humiliated, but for the fact that you're just so grateful that you're getting this wisdom, but you're kind of looking at your own self because you didn't know you were out. But now you're in, and now you clearly realize you were out, and there was a wall, there was a distance, there was something that you didn't even know. And so I on this particular day, I was really in this experience, and I could hear this kind of squiggle sound. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just almost like the Peanuts parents, you know. And so I would just like try to focus more here, because I didn't want that sound in the middle of my really cool experience. And so, you know, and it just kept interfering. And so finally, I just turned my head, it was like 4,000 pounds, you know, turning your attention is a big deal, especially if you have strong attention. And so I turned my attention, and I made it to this place, and I could see this kind of blur, and I could hear, Nicole, do you want some water? Do you want some water? Nicole, Nicole, do you want some water? Yes. I like, and it was like this ice cool, most pure clarity I had ever felt, just total clarity, like the pristine sensation of sensations. And it was my friend Christina, like standing there with the glass of water. And so, and then there was this realization of like, oh, that's what friendship is. That's what love is. That's what intimacy is. It's that place where someone will break into your hyper focus on the illusory world in order to nourish you and connect with you, and they'll just keep doing it, and it'll sound like a, you know, like this foreign sound. And to me, every time I break into intimacy, there's some quality of that. There's some quality of seeing like, oh, there's something in you I haven't seen. There's something in you that there was like an invisible wall, and on that invisible wall was almost like a script of how to perceive things that I was reading in order to interpret everything that happened. And so say there's a part that where I had been hurt or heartbroken, and I had come up with ways to respond to that. And one of those was to just, this is a big one in Buddhism that I really like, was to just dismiss loving kindness. And so you do an exercise, for example, where you notice loving kindness all day. You notice that that person opened the door for you. And instead of saying, oh, they're just being polite, you take it in as loving kindness. You notice when you're kind of sneaking, cutting in line in front of somebody, and the person steps back to allow you. Oh, that's loving kindness. You notice where someone hands you something, and they've handed you something 50 times before because they knew you needed it. but you've always just said, oh, well, that's just what we do. That's sort of what we transacted. And you just, all those moments of dismissal. And then you hit intimacy and you see the love of the person who that it was coming through, and it was always love trying to communicate to you that you are loved, and through this person you're having that experience, and suddenly you see that, oh no, you have different eyes in intimacy. You just have different eyes, and all of a sudden every moment, and I'm just using the example of dismissing love. There are many, dismissing your own power, dismissing, whatever your particular script on the wall is that you're looking through. Mine is dismissing love at times because of my position. I have to stay very equanimous in terms of ensuring that I'm not moved by certain things in order, I have milk in my tits. And so I have to ensure that I'm not moved to give somebody more or less milk because of how they're relating to me, that I distribute evenly and arise according to the need of the times wherever it's needed. And so to take things personally sometimes can be dangerous for my vow. So I'm hyper vigilant there, hyper vigilant. And then all of a sudden you'll realize, oh, I overcorrected in vigilance. And so I just kept dismissing it. And then you just see like, oh my God, the soul or the spirit of the person that was always trying to get to you, was always trying to reach you. And for me, how it occurs when I do very deep meditation, there's this membrane that you break through. You're just meditating, and it's awesome. It's great. You can drop in whatever, but there's a point when you're in Dzogchen and you break through a membrane, and then suddenly the space is like vacuum sealed. It's like it is more still than stillness. There's no sound in Zen, no eyes, no ears. There's nothing there. It's just like this vacuum sealed kind of place. And then, you see various things appear just against this backdrop of emptiness or nothingness. I saw Vajrasattva there. I've seen a few like really cool things. But in intimacy, you will see like the spirit of the person that you're interacting with, and their relationship. Usually you meet at the point of eternal lovers who have lost each other, but it's the eternal lovers that come through you, not you, if that makes sense. But you get to stand inside of that stream, the stream of the lovers that are meeting, and you get to experience their joy. Come here. I was trying to get you to recognize me. Well, I know I was acting like I was doing this. I was acting like I was doing this. Oh my God, there you are. And you can breathe, and then you return back to your respective identities and that, but you have the memory, and then you have the better memory of how to find each other again. And every time you find each other, it is, it's the profound relief, and it's the relief. And this is part of, so often I say, like, just go for the gold and worry about the rest later. Like all of the small d desires, like go hard as you can. Go now, do it now, go, because it's like that resets everything. That experience of intimacy resets everything in such a way that you have the sensation that redefines all of your other experience that is tinged with grasping, aversion, and ignorance. And so all of that just it's fool's gold, because now you've touched the gold of breaking through the membrane, really, of your defenses or protection in any way, right? The idea, like, I don't know if, should I call them first, or all of this figuring stuff that we do, or I need to show this, or they need to prove this to me. That's a big one, right? They need to prove this to me before all X, Y, Z. And so what I say is, whatever feeling you would get if they did prove themselves to you and you did come out, do that first. Don't have it be contingent on anything. Have it be that you start there. You know, I'm going to live to the best of my ability as the finished result. And so you can see, you know all of the conditions we put. If the world did this, if I did this, if my friends did this, if my lovers did this, then I would have this. And if I had this, then I would feel this way. If I felt this way, then I would do and be this. Like, you know, I often with women, I would say, if you had, especially a lot of the interpretations women have. Okay, so if you had all of the power in the world and you were, then what would you do and who would you be? Like, really, like, that's the real question. What would you do and who would you be if you had it? Like, you know, I think we have this idea that that power is akin to retirement. You know, and I think it's why lotto players lose all their money. It's like, if I had $1 million or whatever people say, if I had $1 million, then I would just travel, and I don't even know. I think that's usually what people say. Then I would just travel and I would buy a house, be recreational, something of that nature. But people don't realize that you'd be miserable. And I think that's why people self-sabotage when they get that kind of money, is because the only thing that gives meaning is participation, engagement. We have the idea that the reward is disengagement, when that in fact is the punishment. It means you're behind a membrane. Like, when you're on this side of the membrane, the privilege and the pleasure is to be able to contribute. That's all there is. That's all there is. In fact, that's how you get your rocks off. Is you now are so wealthy that you just plug into somebody else's nervous system, and then you know all of the knobs and levers to pull in order to liberate that experience. And so you get to have that. That's how you get to have it. You get to it's so cool. And just as a byproduct, they get more free. That's great. And because that way they also don't owe you. It's like, no, I'm just getting my rocks off on you. And and we've just made it through some of your klesha, and we're going to eat those, and then we're going to just use those for more arousal, for a deeper experience. Like, that's the system. And it's such a great system because it isn't transactional. And so because I don't know about you, but I do know about me, that when I first started this process, there is no way I could ever pay Ray Betterline back. There's just no way. That human being, I could never pay him back. I could never, ever. And so if you're doing accounting, you're really, really screwed, you know. But he made it very evident to me that it was his pleasure, and not like, oh, it's my pleasure. Like, it was his pleasure. He literally drew pleasure from the experience, so that accounting mind of mine could go down. He was not keeping track of everything he had done for me. And so then I was also saying this last night, because one of the sweetest things about him is he would just be so baffled when I wouldn't engage, when I wouldn't, you know, have more, is really the best way I can describe it. And like, I like to eat a lot, and we'd go out, and I had this favorite bay shrimp salad at the place where he got his corned beef, and he'd order me two. Like, that's just, and I would just be like, Ray, I don't need two. And he'd be like, oh, but honey, you always finish, and it looks like you want more later. And like, it would just make me cringe. And I didn't realize, oh, the cringe was just being that loved, that attended to, that cared for. Had it be that I had to rise and become that person. That's part of the way Eros works, is it demonstrates to you what it's like to be in the presence of generosity, and you either suffer trying to keep yourself from taking more, or some kind of just valve of generosity opens because you're so delighted to have what you have that you really do want more. And so you do that by beginning to offer. But the offering is it's an overflow. It's an offering from overflow. It's just like, oh God, if I were to hold on to this anymore, it would be so painful. And so you never have that feeling of like, oh, I'm doing this to be a good person, or there's never any strain to it. It's just like, it's like coming. It's a lot like coming. And I think that that that's that Eros is that way. Everything that you do in Eros is akin to coming, and so it's more. You only do it because it's more pleasurable to do it. You don't do it to be a good person. So anyway, that's my intimacy story. And then if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to do questions. I'll see if.
We got a question from Alex Jess from Instagram. I have a number of lovers, but I wouldn't say any of them feel like a consort. I feel like my sex life feeds me well, but it seems like there's so much more available when you talk about this stuff. Do you think I'm missing something?
Well, that's a tricky but good question. I see, because I'm supposed to say like, no. I'm supposed to say, I can tell you all the things that I'm supposed to say to not appear as a cult leader, but I'm going to say, yes, you are. That's what I'm going to say. That's not good enough for you. And, there's an endless bounty available. And most people spend their lives trying to manage their, one little tiny dish at the buffet and guarding it, and or like looking over at the other things, thinking if only they could have that. And so for me, unnecessary suffering, and wondering if you're missing something is a form of unnecessary suffering, because the solution to that is genuine fullness, where that thought doesn't fit in and it isn't attracted to your field. A lack of erotic nourishment is what has, it's like you don't have enough light going out into the world, so then little stinky thoughts can make their way in. And so the way you prevent the stinky thoughts is you radiate bright. You can put it on a dimmer and it can be concentrated light as opposed to bright light, but you radiate hard, we'll say, and then the thoughts just can't make their way in, or if they do, they get dissolved into the river. So I consider that a form of unnecessary suffering. And then I would say, what I often used to say is that as far as you can see in this physical world, right? All of it, from living on Mars, to the galaxies, everything we consider in this physical world, every single thing, everything we consider, multiverses, all of it. There's that much and more in the energy world. And so, and to my thinking, sexuality is the most interesting, profound, effective, sustainable gateway that there is. And so it isn't sexuality itself, it's where sexuality trains you, because it makes you profoundly resilient with an incredible capacity, an unbelievable sophistication, and a stability. So it's unlike any other tradition, because even the best traditions, to my mind, although I love the best traditions, I even love the stinky ones, but they don't make you resilient. They set you up to avoid the things that would knock you out, right? Like lust is going to knock you out, baby. And you know, and greed is going to knock you out, and all of these things are going to knock you out. So do not go into those spheres. And Eros says, okay, what's going to knock me out? I'm there. And you're just like, people don't listen to me. Get in there. You know, I'm lonely. Go there. Whatever it is, you go there and you face all of the things that pull you out, the humanity things that pull you out or knock you out. And you go and you keep building and you face it directly, you face it directly, you face it directly. And every time you face the dragon directly, then what happens is to the extent that you do it with incredible grace, then it gives you the next jewel, and the jewel bestows enough power to go to the next deeper, more intense place until pretty soon you have an unbelievable capacity. Nothing scares you. Nothing can knock you out. When you hit that level, that's when you're ready to be an Eros Sattva or a Bodhisattva, because you don't want to take somebody else into your own hands until you can handle your own life, right? And until you're clear, you are not going to be knocked out. Then you can do the most fun part, and that's where you tend to other people, which sounds really terrible, but it's a lot like being a grandmother, where where you get all the benefits of having a kid, but you can hand them over. You know, and so you get all the benefits of having lust and greed and stuff, because they're really fun. I love, you know, I just saw this bottle of wine, $10 with no sugar added. How amazing, you know? Like, oh, that sounds great. So you get all the benefits of indulgence and, you know, engagement and all of that, but you don't have to do it. You just do it through somebody else. So they get all the shitty part. And it's like, I love that greed. You get to have all the fun and stuff. Anyway, but that I went really far, really fast. So I'm going to come back to your question, and your question is, are you missing in something? And I'll say my desire for you is the part of you that asks that question, that it knows the answer, and you know, the simplest level that of what it gives, what a realized sexuality offers. Oh, how about this? I have so many answers here. So the simplest level is the realization of that nagging feeling that more is possible. You find the more that you thought was possible. And it is such a relief and a joy and a shock, and it breeds hope, everything. Like, oh, I was right. You also get to be right, which is a really a really nice feeling. And then you get ownership of yourself. You're no longer, you know, a ward of the world, where you have to answer to all of the world's ideas about who you should be. Because when you inject enough actual Eros into your system, not only does it have its own definition of who you are, it has the resilience and the capacity to protect you against the slings and arrows of the world, to defend who you are, because it is stronger than anything in the material world. It's what made the material world, so it will protect you. That's a pretty profound gift. And then I just had one other one that I really liked. Oh, here's a good one. This is just a great one. And that is, so again, you have to know, I'm not a spiritual person per se. I'm better than that. Just joking. But because this is what you actually get, that no one will admit. See, everyone knows that anybody who has facility in the sexual world is superior. It's just a superior skill to have, because everyone is what we call hexed by sexuality. Everyone knows it is the most important, and I don't mean sexuality itself, but I mean the field of sexuality. It's the most important place to relate. It's where people get the most victimized. It's where people feel the most insecure. It's where people abuse the power of sexuality in order to get and give. It's where people are con artists. It's where people, everything collects around this because it's the most powerful force on the planet. So everything collects around it. So if you actually can penetrate the field itself and not, and by the way, you probably will be, not be just knocked around forever by it, but actually go right into the middle and say, no, I'm here, I'm not leaving. Whatever it is you're going to bring, look, I'm here for it. By the way, this is also the only thing that gives you the wherewithal to stay inside of it. You just have to have that commitment and that vow that you are going to stay inside of that field and with the crazy waves and persistence. I used to also say, like, that's really the primary thing I have is persistence. I just don't stop. Persistence inside of that field, you can't help but get realization. And so everyone kind of knows that, right? And that's why we beat the shit out of sexual women and sexuality itself. It isn't that it's in any way bad or inherently bad. It's that everyone's jealous and hexed. That's all it is. And all of us know it, but we all pretend like we don't. We really do. We just, we're like, oh, she's such a slut. But I can't stop watching her, you know, and I'm just transfixed by her. I'm just fixated on her. I mean, look at the poor sexy Kardashian girls. You know, all they was just everyone wanted to fuck them because they're just so lush. And so the only thing we have is to try to bring them down to our level in a world that won't raise up to their level. Okay, do it, you know, but we all know you're faking it. There is that's the other thing I'll say is in terms of rewards of sexuality is that there is a place where you can't fake it, and that place is heaven, in my opinion. And it's really heaven to go there with another person and to have it be that you're in the place where all masks fall off together. And because you're not faking it, you see, the thing is, we just pick up layers. I live in Harlem, and you walk and you just pick up layers of grit without realizing it. And then you wash your face and you're like, I walked 3 blocks. What happened, right? And that's sort of like how life is. You purify, and then you just pick up layers really quick. And so then when you're in that space where it can't be faked, and it can't be faked because there's merging, and they're inside of you and you're inside of them, and that witnessing just sends all falsehoods out. And so you're getting to see yourself again. You're getting to see them. You're getting to see yourself through their eyes. They're getting to see themselves through your eyes. And so that's where I talk about what's called Indra's net. Indra's net is just this net of all eyes, and eyes are looking at eyes of eyes. People on psychedelics sometimes see this Indra's net, and that's the experience. It's just, and then when you're inside of that space, now I don't like to get too trippy for people, but you really do feel like God looking at God's self, and you're just there, just there in the presence. And you know, I have done my share of practices and psychedelics, all of it, and sexuality is the most simple and profound way to enter. So what I would say is, in terms of everyday sex, I think everybody's had more than enough of it. It's like, you don't need, it's not like you need 6 everyday sex boyfriends. And if you had 7, it would be better. And if they brought you flowers, it would be better. It's that it needs to be different by orders of magnitude. And then only a little bit is a lot. You know, it's like the most pure tincture of intimacy or emptiness. You know, like the very top of a mountain, the rarefied air where you can barely breathe because it's so pure. You know, it's like you don't need all that much of it at first, and then, you know, and eventually you adjust to the altitude, and then you live there, and then you just become accustomed to that air. But I think the world is designed against it So our normative understandings of love, relationship, sexuality are actually against us getting to that place. So you have to change the order of sexuality and your understanding of it and relationship. Then once you do, whatever you have there will breed your freedom.
Sitali from Instagram asked, I find it easier to come when coming as a gift to my partner because he loves it so much. And so then I can allow myself to get to that overflow. Could that be a blockage / restrictive?
Well, that's a great question. These are my Instagram people. I love my Instagram people. That's a great question. Well, you know, we have this funny thing, maybe Maya will put it up later, but we have, you know, sort of the Eros cartography or the Eros map, places where on your way to that pristine air that I just talked about, you have layovers. And so my first principle, well, my first principle is stay connected no matter what. My second principle is whatever works. Okay, so the Dalai Lama has said, you know, anything that makes you happy is Buddhism, which I thought was great. You know, like pure joy, true joy, whatever you consider it. If it's petting your dog, that is it. It's not like it's some big fancy constant fire puja. Trust me, it is not that constant fire puja with mantras and stuff. It's not. It's pure, simple, uncontrived joy. That's what you're looking for. And so anything that breeds that is great. Now, what you want to look for is that pleasure, desire, bliss, you habituate in certain types of experiences because they're finite. And so what happens when you habituate is you have diminishing returns, which is why people love novelty. You know, it's like, oh, you know, I'm going to date 20 people because I'm not finding pleasure with my one person. You know what I mean? You introduce that novelty and that gives you the zing because you haven't developed the muscle that can penetrate through and have sustainable joy no matter what. So then you're always stuck on this, waiting for the next thing to come by that'll drop off a small deposit for you. But if you just go to the other side of the membrane, it's infinite, just waiting for you, gold. Anyway, but you're also trying to get to the membrane. So on the way to the membrane, you use anything. That's what I'm going to say. Anything that doesn't cause harm. You can, you know, you'll probably use things that cause harm. I did. Not serious harm, but, you know, whatever it is. Like I used to get off on flirting with other women's men was a thing. You know what I mean? We all do. It's a woman world. And so I used to get off on getting my guy off on my capacity to shapeshift and conform to his view of what he wanted a woman to be. I would say if you go to the top of the erotic food chain in the finite world, that is near the top. Women who can really shapeshift to become the avatar of male desire, and especially the ones that can get very sophisticated at it, right? Now, this is all wonderful. I don't have any problem with it. By the way, we'll talk about coming later if Sophia would keep that note for me. But and oh God, I have so many thoughts. See, because from that I had why men love it when women come, but that's over there. So where was I? Shape. Thank you for paying attention, Austin. You know, she really what she's showing off is her, you know, she's applied her infinite creative talents in order to conform to the male gaze. by the way, women complain about the objectification of the male gaze. You're only being objectified if you freaking conform to the gaze. If you stand outside of it, he can't do anything to you. Anyway, that's just a side note. And we get off on that. But here's the thing: you're masturbating. You're masturbating because you're getting off to yourself, because you actually aren't getting off in what get off is, and that's that state of merging. And because you can only merge when you're in the uncontrived space where there's no contrivance, no manufacturing of anything whatsoever. In fact, the dropping off of those are what they are, and it's a lot less sexy. So it's hard to penetrate that membrane because you're having to train your partner to sense inside of you rather than to use the sense gates, eyes and ears, and the stuff, and the eyes are beautiful, whatever they are, the eyes rolled back into the head, they love that one, whatever it is. So then and the legs, the whole thing. So you learn how to do that, and then you get off over there. But he's not getting off. That's what I want to say. He's it's a form of like lust getting off. It's the difference between using sugar for energy, ho-hos. Ho-hos and ding-dongs. I don't know if you had those when you were growing up. It was so funny. Whatever. My grandma used to get those for me. It drove my mom crazy. Anyway, ho-hos and ding-dongs were working out, which one are you going to use for energy? And so this kind of get-off has diminishing returns and are very costly. What are they costing you? They're costing you real get off. They're costing you the only thing that you can, the only way you can get it is if your executive functioning goes down. So you can't perform and get off at the same time. It's impossible, even if your performance is really seemingly turning you on. I often talk about, I am gonna ask them for stock cam soda. But you can see the girls kind of like getting off on them. You can see them like looking at themselves in the camera, and you can see like they're like, they're like getting off on how good they look, and they're getting off on how they affect a guy. You can tell, and they're just like, yeah, that's right, daddy. And they're doing the whole thing, but it's a closed loop. They're never touching the infinity where actual orgasm exists, ad infinitum, we'll say. And so you relinquish the source of orgasm where it's infinite, never ending, pure merging, intimacy, total connection, in order to masturbate to a picture of yourself. And then to have him, masturbate to you, having the picture of yourself. And I know there's no actual masturbation, but it's the energetic equivalent because it's closed loop systems. It's your system with yourself, and there's never actual contact made. And so this is not going to sound very elegant, but so that experience is called tumescence, the tumescence, as opposed to real, clean water eros, we'll say, right? So that experience is tumescence, and so it's just a woman fucking her own tumescence. There's no partner there in that experience, and he is doing the same with his projection of erotic woman, right? So he has an idea, and so then he's looking at you and we can all tell when somebody's giving visual instruction of who we should be, when they're like, when we do something, and then they're like, when we, so you begin to contort and conform into that visual idea, And when that feeling, when you just activate him with it, what that is you have managed to lock in the projection into the way that you're in actual movement. So now he has a living, breathing avatar projection, and that clicks something in him. Like, but it doesn't click actual you know, uncontrollable. That's what orgasm is. It's uncontrollable, it's ungovernable, it's insubordinate. It is what each one of us, whether we realize it or not, is praying comes through us as the form of sentient wisdom, because it knows better than we ever could. And that's why I believe we were given the sex impulse. That's why we were given the positive reinforcement, because it's really difficult. Rubbing bodies together is actually extraordinarily challenging. Getting it right, and smells and liquids and all kinds of, it's kind of challenging. And then getting started when your motor's off, and then you have something in your head and you're trying not all of the things. These are the parts that we don't talk about sexuality. It's just like, it's really tedious. The only reason it seems less tedious than, trimming your lawn or washing dishes is that you have very high biological incentive to do it, and you get a blast of bliss or arousal to go with it. And so you're willing to go through the tedium of it and figuring out all of it in order to get that hit. So but that's an important factor. That's an important factor in order to get where you want to go. So anyway, that's what I think is possible.
Nathan from YouTube asked, you talked the other day about responding to all the signals from women, I think, or something like that. I feel like I do that, but it's a lot to deal with. And then sometimes women aren't very happy with me. I'm wondering if you could speak on this aspect for the masculine part of things.
Nathan, I want to say, nobody told you today they love you. I love you. Do I want to speak to this masculine aspect? Yeah, I mean, many years ago, I had a great Buddhist teacher friend who, he was a very, I don't know the word, stoic guy. I don't know. Very normal seeming guy, whatever. And all of his students were totally freaking nuts. And I was one of them, by the way. Creative, original, wild. And he was just such a by the book guy. And I was like, how did you end up with all of these people? And he said, they needed someone to oversee the wildlife refuge. And I'm one of those people, but I just agreed that this would be how I related with it. And so I say that because you say the masculine side of things, and that's my job. I agreed to be, a keeper of this realm, doing the work that you're doing it from the position of a woman, so that I can't be duped. I know what they're up to, and so women really can pull the wool over men's eyes, and some of that's men's fault. But much of it isn't. We have a way as women of not leaving men better than they were when we got them. We leave them less informed, dimmer, because we pretended, because we didn't say when we wanted an adjustment, because we let resentment be what communicated rather than care, love, and wanting more for them. We let ourselves get behind a wall of frustration or confusion. We didn't penetrate it to have actual friendship. We felt inferior, so we acted superior. There's a whole series of things that women do. I just happen to know them because I grew up in this part of town. So I know the codes. I know what we do. And so, but I also know what has women block you out when you address them on the things that they're doing. And so I'm fortunate in that way, and then I can kind of navigate the terrain a little bit better. And so I say this to say I have total compassion, total and complete, absolute, total compassion, total compassion. And, you know, one of the things that happens in the world is that it's upside down. And without Eros, everything turns upside down. And we're very much a world without Eros. And so everyone thinks, oh, you know, men are the jerks and we need to have more compassion for women. It's actually the reverse. Women are very unkind to men and have no idea. I can actually remember, I don't know if you were at the beginning of this talk, but I was talking about, you know, a wall of protection goes up with a whole script and you only see through that script, right? And so women are seeing through this script that men are idiots. They're voracious dogs that only want one thing. They're incapable of emotions and human caring. You not only can, but you should pull the wool over their eyes, because if they actually had any power, they would abuse it. There's a whole series of beliefs that women carry about men. And the terrible news today, it may change. It's 1:57, so it may change at 1:58. We pray. Is that I don't think it's going to change all that quickly. You know, it's because it has to be that women wake up and say, I don't want to live like this anymore. You know, that it has to be that simple, like, I don't want to abuse my powers. I actually want to use them for something that betters my life and everybody else's. And until we do, you can't win no matter what you do. That's what I'm going to say to you. With women, there's no way. Zero. Because they will just be mad. They don't know how to operate their gas pedal and their brake pedal, their knobs and levers. And so they'll just be mad. And what they know to do is have that fall on you. Then they'll just feel kind of horny and in love. They don't know what to do, but say, you made them feel that way. Whatever it is, but none of it has anything to do with you, because they won't develop the self that actually knows what they're feeling and has the locus of power in here. And so they keep projecting it out there. And so, you know, any kind of reality that is projected outside of yourself is open to the waves of karma. And so you're just constantly just fluctuating. You're just being moved about by the waves of karma and pointing a finger at men. That's really what we are trained to do. In fact, that's called feminism. So so then what you have to do is move the locus of joy to yourself, and you have to make the joy being the craft of, we'll call it the craft of rapport, meaning to interact wherever you can in a progressively more artful way that breeds more rapport, something that has a felt sense of intimacy, irrespective of the results or the consequences. That's the work there. And so for me, it's arising according to the need of the times. What will bring even a smidge of relief or freedom or breath into this situation where I'm interacting with this person? And every woman is profoundly different. So that's the other thing. There is no formula. Your only thing is to put your attention on her, lock onto her, and then, like I do with all things, from prisons to women, what is desired here? That's your question. What is desired here? No matter what she's saying, by the way, what she's not saying, if she's pissed, happy, loves you, whatever. What is desired here? And then the for what is for her to have a greater sense of freedom. What does that mean? For her to have a greater sense of space where it doesn't feel like the walls are closing in. What can I possibly inject, do, say, act on that will increase her feeling of space? That's your question as you're interacting with women. And the good news is, if you know, formulas will always have consequences on the back end, because they're always somehow out of alignment with reality because they're formulas. So there's something you put on top of reality. You don't let reality drive. This has you drive inside of reality and then just interact from there. So you'll always have consequences with women. That's the nature of it. So then you have to learn how to delight in them. When they freaking, the worst is, it's not even when they're mean, it's when they just withdraw and you can feel them. You can just feel them tugging at you, but they don't come in and say it. That is just a woman torment. That is just such a great woman torment. But but then there are also the like, you, me, whatever those are. They're endless. And so you just have to be like, you're living inside of a video game called Woman, and you're trying to make it through without, didn't get killed, la la la, got a little booty, you're just like going through, and then she got a little bit more free, and then you go, like that, and you learn to have it be playful and fun and a delight for yourself. That's the most important thing I can possibly say. You cannot do it for her. She will kill you. She will hate you. You will be disgusting to her. Anything you do to please her, anytime you're making love to her to try to please her, try to get her off, she hates you. It's awful. And no matter what she does on the surface, no matter how she grooms it into you, do not do that. Because what she's hearing is, oh God, now I have to pretend more. I have to pretend that I love that. I have to pretend that he has some kind of insight into me, whatever it is. You are just going to delight in your own play. You're going to be like, ooh, last time she said that, I just died. And this time I just passed out. It's a win. And you're just going to have some fun. I mean, that's the best thing I can offer. If you anything else, I'm happy to do.
All right. We will take some reflections. You can go ahead and raise your hand on the Zoom, or if you're in the room and you have a reflection, you can raise your hand or go ahead and send one in on your chat. And we will start with Kara online.
Okay, got it. Okay, hi. Wow, I've been doing Eros for about 13 years. And it is incredible how it's like the things that you say are like totally right where I'm at in my life. And so talking today about, like I've been married for 10 years now, and the thing that got me was everyone has had enough of everyday sex. And when it's pure, you don't need that much. And then eventually you will live there. So that is just a drop of deliciousness for my marriage and my sex life right now.
It does. Yeah, ask him his secrets, everything he's keeping secret from you, and then eat it. Love you.
Love you.
Satali on Instagram said, fucking badass answer. The syzygy in women must emerge before we can proceed in integrity.
Mwah.
And then we'll go to Russell online.
Okay. Now you're making me worried about this whole thing of like, you asked for a garden or you didn't want to move so much. So we started doing agriculture, and you really just like the nomad stuff. And where are we?
Exactly. Brilliant synopsis.
And then we'll end with Kara in the room.
Oh, I love the way that Eros is facing it directly. And you said face it directly and then give it grace. And I feel like I've been applying that to my life of facing something directly, go all the way through and there's no judgment, but it's just something you have to do to see the other side. So thank you.
You're a good host.
I-
Uh-oh, here's our up and comer. Leah's coming on, and this girl is coming up fast. She's coming in hot.
Coming in hot. Those things hot. Okay, great. I felt like I was able to put words to an aspect of how you speak and tell stories and share, which is you have the words and then you have the feeling that you bring us inside of. And I'm just so grateful for how you led us so generously into the feelings with such precision and steadiness. Thank you.
Hot, hot, hot. All right, so I think I'm back on
Sunday.
Sunday
at 1 o'clock.
at 1 o'clock. How's that? Good?